John, in the words of the late, great Meatloaf, now don't be sad, because 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? The Angels take 2 out of 3 from the A's this weekend, and we're thrilled because it
Thrilled.
stopped a 4-game losing streak, and we're going to give you all the details you need. Also, you set the agenda for the show. You sent in questions, you left voicemails, and we're going to give you our answers to those questions. You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on the audio side, you can rate and review the pod. And if you're watching on the video side, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified on YouTube every time a new episode hits. And today's episode's brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Locked On Angels. You got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Well, it feels good to snap that 4-game skid that we were on and take 2 out of 3 from the A's this weekend. Mike, we've got a lot to cover in regards to this series, so let's break it down. Let's start with Friday's game.
All right, these are the notes that I wrote on Friday after watching that game. I'm just going to read you my notes. You ready?
Okay.
What a pathetic game! Exclamation point, right? Too many Ks. We had 13 strikeouts, and then we had 7 strikeouts looking.
Yeah.
And it just felt like we had no energy. It was no fun. It was no fun to watch, and the team felt really defeated. And honestly, on Friday, I walked away going, man, this team reminds me of last year's team, or at least in this game, it reminds me of last year's game. And then to put a cherry on top of the pathetic ice cream, right, from Friday night, Ward gets taken out after making a great catch in right field. And then he gets taken out because he ran into the wall.
Yeah.
And it looked like maybe it was more like his hat hit the wall and then like came back and hit his head. We found out on Sunday that he's going to get an MRI on his shoulder and his neck, which is good. Hopefully it'll come back clean and he'll be able to be back in the starting lineup. But it was one of those days where we're like, man, this is just pathetic. And then when Ward got hurt, you were like, of course,
Of
right?
course.
Of course
Yeah.
it happened.
Yeah. Did you see his bill on the hat?
Yeah.
It was bent. I'm doing this on the video side. It was like bent downward. Like he hit the wall so hard. It bent the bill down. And boy, he was really rattled from that. And they said that he passed concussion protocol, which is great news. And I'll be interested to see how this MRI turns out because we really need him in the lineup at the top of the lineup. So yeah, that was a tough game and a tough loss and tough to see Taylor Ward get hurt like that.
Yeah. You tweeted out the Coyote cartoon picture of like running into the wall after Taylor hit that, because that's what it felt like, right?
That's what it felt like.
It just felt like he went full speed into the wall. What a great catch, by the way. So thanks for the hustle, man. We as Angel fans appreciate that. Can we talk about Chase Silseth for a moment? This was his second major league start, and obviously we had high expectations because his first start was so incredible, but he really struggled in this one, and he didn't struggle initially, but it was in that the fifth inning actually, where he began to really struggle. He went 4 1/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, and 6 Ks. And the thing that I just felt like as I was watching this game was we can't keep pulling our pitchers early. They have to give us an opportunity to win, which is why the next 2 games are so much fun to talk about. But Friday night just felt like we were repeating the cycle of not getting to the 5th inning, not getting to the 6th inning. And I get that Chase is still learning, and I get that he is fresh in the major leagues, but this was just another affirmation of why we need strong starting pitching and why when we talk about going and getting somebody, we need to honestly think about an ace for this starting rotation, because I love Chase and I love that he's up, but we can't keep relying on these young guys because they're just too inconsistent, you know?
Yeah, agreed. Now, the good news is that the pitching on Saturday was when things really turned around. We had Michael Lorenzen versus Frankie Montas, who's somebody that we've had an eye on in terms of possibly trading for. However, he left the game early due to an injury, and it was Luis Rengifo hit one back at him, and it caught him on the hand, It hit his bare hand, and he actually felt better on Sunday, but he lost feeling in his hand and two of his fingers for a minute. And so
he saved his own life when he did that.
Yeah,
that
no
ball
kidding.
was coming in hot. And
kidding.
So thank goodness he was okay, but that was a scary play. And then he got the out. Like, he had the wherewithal to actually throw Rengifo out at first base. So great job on Montas's part.
Yeah, and as much as it was nice to not have to face Montas the rest of the way, like, you never want to see an injury like that to a player and even an opposing player. So it definitely made things easier for us from that point on. You kind of wonder what would have became of this game had Montas continued in this game.
Right.
But fortunately, it was a break, no pun intended. It was a break for us just to get to some easier pitching out of that bullpen. But speaking of Rengifo, man, this guy has really turned it around this season and is starting to look like the Rengifo that we always see in AAA, and is actually doing well. But he got the Angels on the board in the 5th with his first home run of the season, had a second RBI later in the game. And right before the RBI, Gooby was talking about on the Angels broadcast that about why the Angels have struck out looking so often. And it has to be that their approach has been to swing at pitches in the zone. And some of those calls were a bit borderline, and the Angels are working to be patient and not give into the pitcher. And then Andrew Velasquez hit his second home run of the season in this game, and he added to the lead. And then, of course, Michael Lorenzen, who is a starting pitcher. He is looking like a starting pitcher, and he did great. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks, lowered his ERA to 3.05. He's 5-2 on the season, which is great news. The defense came through once more. Velasquez has a diving catch. Rengifo turns a double play to help out Lorenzen and get him out of that 6th inning. Raisel saves the game in the 9th.
Didn't that feel good?
Yeah.
That felt really good to see him come in and just dominate. That felt really good.
Back to looking like the Raisel that we know, which we know that every now and then there's going to be a struggle, and he was able to come in and lock it down. So that ended the 4-game losing streak. And I tweeted something the other day about the 2002 Angels and that their highest losing streak that year, the year they won 99 games, was 6 games. They lost 6 games in a row at one point. And so even the best teams in the Angels history are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a good indicator for, oh, shoot, even the 2002 team who won the World Series, they lost 6 games in a row. So this 4-game losing streak felt dire, but at least it wasn't 6 games. It didn't get to that point just yet.
Right.
So
right.
Wanted to point that out, but they were 25-17 heading into Sunday. And then Patrick Sandoval was on the mound, Mike, on Sunday.
He was the story on Sunday. 7 1/3, 4 hits, 1 run, one walk, and 7 Ks. And John, he looked like an ace, didn't he?
Yeah, the 1 walk stands out to me the most because that seems to be his biggest struggle, is those walks. So to get 1 walk was incredibly important for him in this game.
Him and Ohtani, when they're not walking people, you know that you're going to get a really great start from them. And he looked great. And he actually had, through the first part of the lineup, he had a no-hitter going. And so everybody was really excited about that. And he just looked dominant. And what I loved is when they took him out, he got a standing ovation. But did you see the video of him in the dugout slamming his glove? Like, he was
mad,
really frustrated, right? And because, there was the mistake that Wade made in the outfield. He lost the ball in the sun. And then there was the bloop that caused the run to score. And I think it's one of those things where a pitcher throws their pitch in their spot, and then the hitter just is really good. And Jed Lowry made that hit, and he's just like noted angel killer, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
And blooped in a little double or a little single in that moment, and they scored a run. And so I can see why he was frustrated. But again, we've talked about this often, and it's why we love Jared Weaver reference. It's why we like Jay Weave, because he had fire, right? And that's why we like these guys, because they're just bringing a fire to this starting rotation.
Even if you think about Chase Silseth on Friday night, I know that he got pulled for 2/3, but the 3 runs that he gave up were off 2 home runs.
Yes.
And in my mind, you made 2 mistakes. Out of all the pitches you threw, you made 2 mistakes, and they both went out of the yard.
Yeah.
And to me, that is actually an encouraging indicator of somebody who is pitching well. And the fact that it wasn't runs coming in all over the base paths and he was struggling with that. It was simply 2 mistakes. And I think the same thing with Patrick Sandoval. It was a bloop single that got that guy in to score. And that's the human element when we talk about this game is how are guys going to swing the bat and how are they going to throw the ball and what's the trajectory off the bat, and it's going to do a weird bloop like that sometimes. That's how it's going to be sometimes.
Baseball, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
speaking of swinging the bat, how about the greatest of all time, Mike Trout went 3 for 4 with a walk, 2 RBIs, hit his 12th home run, and then the other greatest of all time, Shohei Ohtani, hits his 9th home run. He's good last time I checked.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And helped the Angels win this game 4-1. Their overall record 26-17. That record looks good to me, right?
Yeah, it does.
Even after losing 4 in a row, we still find ourselves 9 games over 500 moving into our next series. They're off today, Monday, and then we start a brand new series, a 2-game series against the Texas Rangers. It's our revenge series, right, John? We want to get them. And so Thor is going to be pitching, and he's coming off that really terrible start against the Rangers. And so it'll be interesting to see how he handles himself. And then the next game, Glenn Otto against Reed Detmer. So I'm looking forward to this series, and we're going to be at home. So I think that'll be a benefit for our Halos.
We can't gloss over the fact that Mike Trout got run number 1,000 this weekend. There's the GOAT stats for you right there. So yeah. Shout out to Mike Trout. What a great Sunday it was. That leadoff home run from Ohtani. Just that's the kind of Angels baseball we want to see.
Well, coming up on Locked On Angels, you get to set the agenda for today. We're going to answer all of your questions about the Halos, and we appreciate you sending in your voicemails and your questions. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by Built Bar. John, you know that I love brownies, but more importantly, I love the brownie batter. I love to stick my finger in that bowl, right? I love that. And sometimes I'll eat half of the batter. And well, that's usually when my wife isn't looking or when my daughter's cooking, and I'll try to sneak it, right? So imagine if you could lick the brownie spatula clean and get some protein in. If that's you, you're in luck because Built has a new creation. It's one of the best Built bars ever. The Brownie Batter Puff is now available. Yes, you heard me right. The Brownie Batter Puff is available, and this puff takes protein bars to a whole new level, and they're available right now at Built.com. These puffs are covered in marshmallow. They're covered in chocolate, and they're a marshmallow protein bar. They're delicious, and they have 100% real chocolate, 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 7 grams of sugar in the Brownie Batter Puffs. And they are perfect for a midday snack, a midday pick-me-up. And all Built Puffs are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently, and it provides a ton of health benefits. The Brownie Batter Puffs will have you completely forgetting that you're eating a protein bar. So go to Built.com today, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off at Built.com today.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now, for your next listen, be sure to check out the Locked On Now podcast. You're going to get recaps of MLB games with analysis from local experts like Mike and I, taking fans through the season like no other network. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, John, you and I've talked about how Mondays are our favorite episodes since we've taken over at Locked On, which is a little over a month now. And that's been exciting. And thank you, everybody, for sending in your questions, tweeting at us, sending us a DM, even getting into our voicemails. So, John, why don't you get us started?
Let's do it. Here's a voicemail from Manny from Diamond Bar.
Yeah, Manny.
Hey, guys. Manny here, calling from Diamond Bar. So I had a quick question regarding Joe Adele. You know, everyone's thinking that they'll probably end up trading him. But one thing I was also thinking about is, you know, I'm sure he adds, or he's an important depth piece for this lineup. Hopefully nothing ever happens to any outfielder. But in the case where Brandon Marsh or Mike Trout or any one of our outfielders gets hurt, do you think it's equally important that we keep him for depth in case somebody gets hurt in the outfield? Or do you think it's more important that we trade him away for another potential starter or even a bullpen piece? You know, I know it's easy to say that the starter and bullpen piece would be way more important, but if someone were to get hurt too, who would fill in for anybody in the outfield if Joe Adele is gone? you know. And then if we're trading for a starter, if there's an older pitcher, what if he then gets hurt, you know? Then it's kind of the same thing, but what do you think is more important? I'd like to get your guys' feedback, and thank you. Bye.
Appreciate the voicemail, Manny. Thank you for giving us a call. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that we're seeing an example of the outfield problem right now, and that is without Taylor Ward in right field, then you run out Tyler Wade, who can play the outfield, but he had problems with the sun today or on Sunday, and it cost Patrick Sandoval a run. And Mike, you and I have talked about it. Jo Adell should be back with the club yesterday.
Yes, 100%. I think the only pushback that I would have with Manny's question would be this, that I don't think Jo Adell is a fourth outfielder. Juan Lagares is a fourth outfielder.
Yeah.
Right? But Jo Adell actually can be a talented all-star outfielder. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the Angels are struggling with what to do with him right now. Because I don't think that they want him to just come up and fill in. I think they want him to come up and perform.
I'm going to plug the episode we had last Friday with Lindsey Crosby from Locked On MLB Prospects.
That was fun.
I would encourage you guys to check out that episode because we actually have a lot of depth and a lot of talent that we could trade from in this organization, and it doesn't have to be Jo Adell. A good example of that is if you look at a team like the A's are looking for pieces that are 2 to 3 years away from the bigs because that's about the time they want to have their rebuild that they do every couple of years complete. And so if you can find a team that will accept pieces that are a few years away, not somebody who needs to impact their team now, but can impact their team in the future, I think that's the depth that you trade from. And in terms of trading for a starter or a bullpen piece, bullpen pieces are a crapshoot. And we've seen that. And we signed Aaron Loop, who had the best ERA as a reliever in the National League last season. And he's got his moments where he struggles. We saw Ryan Tepera struggle, but then we saw Ryan Tepera figure it out on Sunday and do really well to get out of that jam. And so I don't think that you take somebody like a Jo Adell and trade for a bullpen piece that's, like I said, a crapshoot. I think that if there's a frontline starter that you can get, then I think that that might be under consideration. But at the same time, I don't think that the Angels are interested in trading Jo Adell.
That's a great point.
One question I want to wrap this up in is from Chefaroni on Twitter. He said, what is the team waiting to see in Adell? That's a great question. And there was a clip from Friday night of Jo Adell making an incredible sliding grab in the outfield. And it was like kind of similar to the one from last year when he caught that one in left field and got up and just fist pumped.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like obviously he plays better in right, but last year he made that play in left. So I don't know. I think that if they're waiting to see something in Adell, I couldn't tell you what it is because I think obviously they want him to work on his defense. He's hitting well in AAA. So I'm not sure what they're waiting on unless it's they want to see more better defense. That's proper English for you. What do you think?
I think that, Jo Adell just came off of an 0 for 12 right now, and then he's starting to hit again. I think that that's the Jo Adell that we're going to get. I think he's going to be that type of guy, maybe Justin Upton-ish, right?
Streaky.
He'll have streaky moments, and then he'll have really terrible moments. And I think if they're looking for anything, they're looking for him to shrink those moments in half so that they're not finding themselves really frustrated with him over a period of 5 or 6 games, but it's really maybe 1 or 2 games. I think that that's the difference and maybe something that they're looking for in Jo Adell.
Definitely. How about this question from Eric at Eric Luna _2020 or 22? He said, what trade scenarios do you see coming at the trade deadline? Is Adell on the block? And when does Stefanik get a shot in the bigs? Well, let me answer that Stefanik question first. Again, encourage you to check out the episode with Lindsey Crosby because we asked him about Michael Stefanik and what he needs to do in order to make it to the bigs. The bat is there and he certainly makes great contact and is a power bat. It sounds like that he needs to improve probably at second base.
Yeah.
Or he could also add the corner outfield to his game. But check out that conversation. When it comes to Adell on the block, again, I don't think the Angels are interested in trading Jo Adell. And again, it depends on the team that you are going to transact with. If they want a guy who can impact the league like Jo Adell, or wait a couple of years like the A's might. But then the trade scenarios that we see coming at the trade deadline, I'm still a believer in Shane Bieber. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
And I think that with the Guardians struggling this season, and not being able to afford the contract that Shane Bieber is going to want, I think the Angels are a great spot for him. But what do you think, Mike?
I think that if you're going to make a big splash, you're going to need to trade your pitching. I don't think that Joe Adell is going to be the guy that you make a big splash with. And so I think that if the Angels make a trade for a Bieber or for a starting pitcher in that same kind of mindset and that same kind of like performance and being an ace and those types of things, I think they're going to have to give up some of their young arms to be able to get somebody like that, because you can make a Joe Adell or a Brandon Marsh any day of the week from your minor leagues, right? You can get an outfielder. Those seem to be easier to find, but strong starting pitching where it's consistent and where you can actually have somebody that's going to perform well for your team, that can be hard to find. And I think that the Angels have a plethora. There's your English word for you, John. A plethora of starting pitching. I think that that's the trade that they're going to make if they make a trade for an ace.
I think that's a great point. How about, let me wrap this question with the next question. A with AM Baseball 22's question was, do you think the Angels could make a push at the trade deadline, or will they sell out? And then there's this question from Jonathan_Cornish. Need pitching depth. I just don't know what we need more, bullpen or starting pitching. Well, the first question for A with AM Baseball 22, yes, the Angels will be very much involved at the trade deadline. I think this is the year more than any other year that we've wanted them to make a big move. This is the year that they will make a big move. They are not going to sell out, especially if we continue to play the way that we're playing. And then regarding Jonathan Cornish's question, need pitching depth, bullpen or starting? I think that if you want to have a frontline starter, you go after that. But if the Angels can't make a deal, Mike, you and I have talked about this, bullpen is the way to go. So I say prioritize a starter. If that's not going to work, you've got the bullpen depth behind them. But what's your take?
I know that we love talking trades right now because we're fans and that's what we do. I think that the most important thing that we need to do is see where the team is after the All-Star break, right? And that's really going to give us an indication of what they're going to do, because we don't know if somebody's going to get hurt. We don't know if somebody's going to slump. We don't know if they're going to try to replace somebody. Maybe Velasquez struggles at short, or maybe they find a better second baseman. We don't know if they're going to do any of those things. So I think all trades are on the table. I think that they're going to lean in the direction of starting pitching. I think priority number 2 is going to be bullpen. And I think priority number 3 is probably going to be somebody to play the middle infield, or perhaps even back up Jared Walsh at first base, because right now we really don't have anybody that is super solid to back him up. I love Matt Duffy, but he's not a first baseman.
Yeah, agreed. How about this question? Aggie_Nicky. He said, C-Rod in the pen and trade Canning for a piece at the deadline. Thoughts? Well, there's 2 problems there. Canning had a setback in returning to the mound. And so he probably would not make a great trade piece. I think the Angels are still interested in what's going to become of Canning. And then C-Rod would be great in the pen, but also he had shoulder surgery, so he's not going to be able to be in the pen probably this season, maybe late this season, but he's somebody that you and I have talked about before, Mike. We think he would make a much better bullpen piece because of the shoulder issues there.
Yeah, and I think that Griffin Canning is probably going to be out for the rest of this season because there's talk about him having back surgery as well. And so whenever you're talking about back surgery or the potential of some sort of surgery, that's an indication that you're probably not going to be around at least for another couple of months and maybe perhaps the season. So I think both of those names are off the table unless we make a trade and we need to throw somebody in. I could see one of those names getting thrown in, but I would hate to get rid of them because I think that they haven't performed the way that we would hope for. And I think that there's a lot of potential in them. I would love to hang on to those 2 pieces because I think next year they could really benefit the Angels.
Let's finish out this segment with another voicemail. And this one comes from John from Buena Park. Here we go.
Hey, this is John from Buena Park. Dude, I love you, brothers. You guys are cool, man. I'm a first-time listener. Stefanik. Dude, we got to bring him up, bro. Hey, Renifo, you got to bounce. Big time. We got to get his contact bat in there. Dude, we got to give him a shot. Silseth, dude, if he pitches well on Friday and he continues to pitch the next 2-3 games, dude, we just got to put him in rotation, man. That boy can play and throw that ball, man. And Myers, oh, bro. Myers has got the bounce, too. Dude, Myers, dude, if he pitches well on Friday and he continues to pitch the next 2-3 games, dude, we just got to put him in rotation, man. That boy can play and throw that ball, man. And Myers, oh, bro. Myers has got the bounce, too. Dude, he's got to go. When we have a big lead, man, he gives up to the point where, man, there's tying man on base, and we're about to bring in Iglesias. Or if it's a close game, he gives up a home run that's costly. He's just a hard-throwing guy, man. He just throws the ball hard. That's all he does. Dude, every time he comes in, it's like, man, I got to go. So, hey, dude, I just want to say, I love you guys, man. I'm going to keep on listening. Hopefully I can hear myself on the radio, man. That'd be pretty cool on your guys' podcast, man. All right. Buena Park, John, let's go. Halos.
Yes, John from Buena Park. Love
that was the best
guy.
phone call. That was great.
So, John, I think this came in a little bit before this past weekend series, but Renjifo's turning it around. He's turning it around this weekend, and he's showing that he's making much better contact. He's batting above 300 right now, which is something we haven't seen from him. I agree with you about Mike Myers, though, and I think the issue with Myers is that he's been tasked with a lot of high leverage situations lately because we've got the injury to Archie Bradley and Austin Warren. So I think those are the issues that you're going to find with this bullpen right now, is that we don't have our bullpen in full force. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that John should be the GM of the Angels. He's got some. I love that. What if that was how he was, maneuvering for the Angels? Bro, you got to bounce. I got to bring up another guy. He mentioned Stefanik again, and I think that that's going to be the guy that a lot of Angel fans would want to see. Again, to reiterate your point, Stefanik offensively looks great, but he doesn't really have he's positionless because he really hasn't played strong defense anywhere he's been. And maybe one of the options could be that he could back up Jay Walsh at first base.
Totally.
But I think that's, again, you're putting somebody over there that hasn't really played that position. But if Kurt Suzuki can do it, then anybody can do it, right?
Absolutely. All right, for our last segment of the day, we're going to take another voicemail from Ryan from Fullerton. Here we go.
Hello, this is Ryan from Fullerton. And I've been listening to you guys for a while now, and I love your energy. I love what you guys bring. It's always a good time. I listen to you guys at work every night. It helps me get through my graveyard shift. But hey, I think it's an exciting time to be an Angels fan. And I've been an Angels fan since I was a little kid, so early 90s. I know a lot of times, we get on good little streaks, and everyone seems to get excited. But a lot of what I've been hearing lately is, it's still early. Just wait, they'll blow it, someone will get hurt, they'll start to tank. For me, I kind of feel like we go through this every year, but this year seems different. This year seems like we have a spark, we have an energy, we're having fun. At least it looks like they're having fun out there, and I think that's a huge part of it. But what happened? What happened this off season or during spring training or on the first road trip? What brought everyone together? What do you guys think that is? A free agent signing, new coaching staff, Brandon Marsh? What do you think happened there? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Ryan from Fullerton, thanks for taking us to work with you, man, on those graveyard shifts. We're probably got a lot of energy to keep you up through the night.
Keep you up at night. Yeah, you need it. Yep.
Right. I think you make a good point, Ryan. The energy of this team, I think you can attribute to the fact that Mike Trout is the locker room leader now. I mentioned this before. Trent Rush, who is part of Angels Radio, he is in the locker room a lot, and he pointed out that this locker room feels different because Trout it's his club. It's his clubhouse. And that's because Pujols is gone. That's because J-Up is gone. And it's finally time, and we wanted this for a long time. This is Trout's club. And I think that he is the one who inspires this energy, this enthusiasm, and this fun. And they got a lot of young players. I mean, Joe Adell's not with the club right now, but Joe, Brandon Marsh, Squid, those guys bring energy to this club. I think Jared Walsh brings a lot to this club in terms of kind of being the weirdo guy, but fun and comical at the same time. So, and then the cowboy hat, they have a thing now when they hit home runs. And so we finally have a thing, and that's good to see. But what do you think, Mike?
It's culture. And I think you've mentioned this before on the pod. It's Joe Maddon being able to influence this culture. When you take over any sort of organization, business, wherever you're at, you inherit the culture from the previous leader. And the first 2 years, you're navigating that culture. Well, this is Joe's third year with us, and it's now his team and his fingerprints are on it. And I think that those moves, DFAing Pujols last year and then DFAing Upton this year, is not because they're bad guys, but I think it was a cultural move and to tip the cap to Mike Trout to say, hey, you're going to lead us and we want your energy and we want your passion to drive us. I think that's why you see those pitchers getting yanked from games and being fired up about getting yanked. I think that that's a Mike Trout-esque vibe, a Mike Trout culture. And I think it's also Joe Maddon's influence. Even though he can frustrate us, I think Joe Maddon has really proven to put his thumbprint on this team.
And as far as people saying the bottom's going to fall out, and we go through this every year, I mean, I said this on a previous podcast. Look at the teams that we've had in the past that we were hopeful about with, you know, Yunel Escobar starting at third. Yunel Escobar is not Anthony Rendon.
No.
And having Tyler Wade and Andrew Velasquez up the middle is not having Danny Espinosa up the middle, right?
Yeah.
So this is a very different team. We don't have, God bless him, Andrew Heaney. We don't have Andrew Heaney giving up 4 home runs in a row anymore. And I like Andrew Heaney, but I don't miss those home runs. So
I like him on another team.
I like him on another team. There you go. I like Andrew Heaney, but I like him on another team. Love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go to this comment and question from the Everyday Minister at TEDM Pod. Locked On Angels, where were all those fans predicting doom and gloom for the Angels last week? They won 9 out of 13 series so far this year. They are 1.5 behind the Astros with a plus 51 run differential. The Angels have lost 3 series and split 1 out of 13 series plays. That's a .692 win percentage. How can anybody be upset about that? How can anybody not like these Halos right now, Mike? Everyday Minister makes a great point.
He makes a very good point. And I think that what we have to do as Angel fans is that we got to keep our head down and keep cheering for our team, because there's always going to be somebody coming at us and there's always going to be somebody that's going to question us. And our history has proven that, at least in the last 10 years or so, that we haven't been a successful team. And so a lot of that chatter might be justified. And I think what we need to do is just keep our head down and keep cheering for our team. We don't need to defend them. They're going to prove themselves. And this series this weekend is one of those examples. When they face adversity, they're going to rise above it.
And you got to win series. We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
Series. Don't focus on one bad loss. Focus on winning the series. How about this one?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think caused, this is from Dumpster Diver on Instagram, what do you think caused last week's pitching breakdown? Man, I think it's just a case of not having our regular guys like that we can go to, like Austin Warren, Archie Bradley. We saw Kyle Barraclough get us through some innings.
Yep.
We saw Mike Myers, who, was in a high leverage situation, kind of blow it a little bit, but he's also meant for those low leverage situations. And so I just don't think we have our full staff when it comes to the bullpen right now. What do you think, Mike?
It's the law of averages, right? Like Aaron Lube had such a great year last year, but he still had an ERA, right? And the reason why he had an ERA was because he gave up runs. When we see him over the course of 162 games, we're like, dude, look at this guy. He's incredible. But we missed the fact that there were a few games where he gave up runs. Like, remember when Ryan Tepera early on gave up back-to-back home runs to the Astros, and we're like, what's wrong with this guy? Now we're excited about him. Sure, he stumbled a bit last week, but there's going to be those moments. And what I think shows the tenacity of this team is what they do after those moments. And we saw Tepera crush it on Sunday.
Agreed.
And so it's the law of averages. And you're not going to get through the season perfect. Nobody's going to get through the season perfect. There's just going to be these moments where we have to kind of fight through, and the Kyle Barracloughs are going to have to step up for us.
Agreed. How about this one from 19 Rob Dog 91? He said, Squid is playing great. Does he stay at short when Fletch gets back? Actually, we did see a little bit of Squid and Fletch play for a few games before Fletch decided to have the surgery, and he played second. So we're going to see Andrew Velasquez stay at short, even when David Fletcher comes back. Mike, I want to pass this one to you from Jake.Cashion. He said, do you think Wallach is good enough, or has he shown enough potential to stay in the lineup? What do you think, Mike?
I'm speaking from my fan heart here. I think he should stay on the major league roster for as long as possible. And I don't know what that means for the roster if they have to get rid of like Kurt Suzuki, which I know they signed him to a deal, and I know that he was kind of a locker room leader, and Kurt's having a pretty successful year. But man, I really like Chad Wallach, and I think that he would just be kind of floundering until next year if you send him down to AAA. But all of these roster decisions are so difficult because the team is actually playing really well, which is fun to actually talk about.
A good problem to have. How about this question here? Connor_S_. What should happen with the plate discipline and strikeouts as of right now? And I confirm this. ESPN says we have 390 strikeouts.
Whoa.
It's true.
Wow.
From all of our hitters combined, we have 390 strikeouts. Look, a lot of those, I've watched pretty much every game. A lot of those are frustratingly bad calls from the umpires. However, the other night, was it Friday night? They didn't swing the bat. You guys got to swing the bat. You got to put the ball in play. And like you said earlier, they're trying not to let the pitcher get the best of them, but you can't always trust the umpire's strike zone. And a lot of those strikeouts were in the zone on Friday, and they were just getting fooled, or they just were not swinging at those. And so if it's in the zone, they got to swing. And Taylor Ward is a great example of that, honestly. What do you think?
I think if it's close, you got to swing, especially if the ump has shown you that he's going to give the off the plate strike, which is actually a ball. He's going to call it a strike. If he's going to give that, then I think you got to expand the zone a little bit. Listen, being patient is great, but striking out looking doesn't help your team at all, right?
Not at all.
So you got to swing the bat. Swing the bat.
Swing the bat. This one came from the Sportsmen Report. They said Rendon always works the count. Thoughts on him leading off? I think I like him fourth or fifth because you have Taylor Ward at the top of that lineup.
Yeah.
And I think Ward has totally changed the trajectory of this lineup by being first and leading off for us. And then with a guy like Rendon, you've gone through, 1, 2, 3, 4 batters. Then you kind of theoretically start the order again with a proto leadoff man in the fifth spot with Rendon, or maybe he's batting fourth or something like that. I think you kind of want to repeat that cycle of leadoff guy, hit guy, power guy, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of do that all the way down the lineup. And I think Rendon could be your quote unquote second leadoff guy. And so I think I like him in the middle of the lineup, and I love Taylor Ward at the top.
Yeah, you've played a lot of MLB The Show. I can tell. Is this how you set up your lineup?
That's how John Madden would run the Angels.
Boom.
All right, Mike. Last question here. This one is a fun one from Josh at Light Up That Halo on Twitter. What are your thoughts on the Angels retiring jersey numbers of past greats? Vlad should have had his number retired, but now it's being used by Trout. Will they have a joint number retirement, or will Vlad forever be a footnote on number 27? Well, my gut reaction to that is Vlad's in the Angels Hall of Fame, and he's also the only Angel in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I don't think that Vlad is a footnote. I understand that Trout is using his number now. If that number does get retired, I think it belongs to Trout. I think that the career that he's had so far and the career he will continue to have and the loyalty he showed to the Angels, I think if they decide to retire number 27, I think it belongs to Trout. But we're still waiting on Salmon and his number to be retired.
It seems like the Angels are not quick on the draw to retire numbers. And I think they're, they put the, Tim Salmon in the Angel Hall of Fame and Garrett Anderson as well. But I think that they have been hesitant to retire numbers. And it may be because they just aren't ready to do that. And they want to be able to have a good amount of numbers to hand out, I guess. I don't know.
Sure,
but
I don't know.
But they seem to be hesitant about that. So I don't think that it's an indication of Vlad being a footnote at all. I think that they really respect Vladdy Guerrero, and the fact that he went in as an Angel into the Hall of Fame was a tip of the cap to the Angels organization.
Totally. Well, speaking of retire, as we retire this episode, Mike,
Hey-o.
Our listeners should jump over to another podcast. Where should we send them?
Our friend Paul Francis Sullivan hosts the Locked On MLB podcast. We like to call him Sully, and he brings his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present, and his podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. If you want to give us a follow on Twitter, you can reach us at Locked On Angels. You can also connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Thanks everybody for sending in those questions. We really love doing these episodes. I know it's a little bit longer, but it's worth the time. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's episode?
I got a question for you. Do we appreciate Shohei Ohtani?
Ooh.
John and I are going to discuss this tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right. That sounds like a good conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you tomorrow here on Locked On Angels.